She's a fickle bitch. That's the intro.
So let me start by saying this. I really appreciate doing this work with you because I feel like it is two generations talking about topics that I will admit that I didn't always get an opportunity to talk to my mom about because some of them were considered taboo.
Okay.
Yeah. And as a result, taboo, the word taboo?
Yeah, that would be a good word.
Okay. So as a result, there were all kinds of situations that came up in life that I didn't have practical understanding of how to correct or manage because I had a deeply religious understanding. So they were supposed to almost magically at some level go away or fix themselves. And which is why I got into the work that I'm doing, right? Because the magic wasn't working. So
Best thing you ever did.
one of the things that I do want to have an opportunity to talk about, and I think when you were growing up, we talked a lot about this, and now talking about it even more as I'm making changes and adjustments in my own life, and that's friendships. And I recall as a kid recognizing that everybody's not your friend, right?
That was one of the first things that you drilled into my head, actually. I was actually one of the first things I remember the most. You guys used to tell me that all the time. Everybody's not your friend. Everybody's not your friend.
Right. Because friendships mean something different to different people, right? And so you could be thinking that your friendship is going to go one way and it actually manifests very differently than the way that you see friendships. And so I know in recent months, both you and I have been seeing some challenges in that area in managing friendships as we grow into different spaces.
Right. Honestly, it's great that we're talking about this. Firstly, I do also appreciate having these conversations because I feel like I'm talking to a different mother. Because you have grown so much as a person from when I was a child to now who you are as an adult, which I definitely admire. And so being able to have these conversations with you again, but differently, and I'd even like to say more honestly, and especially on my ends because I have more of a vocabulary to even have the conversation, because as a child, I spoke as a child.
Preach, preacher.
You know what I'm saying? Even though I very much wanted to speak, I had a lot of adult things to say, and when I said them, there were a lot of people that did not like that. And I think that I'm realizing now that you have always done your best to allow me that space while still trying to navigate it on your own. So I definitely appreciate you as a parent for finally not listening to everybody else, because I think that was the one thing that was holding you back the most, because you are such an amazing mom and an amazing person and being. And I think that one of the reasons we can both have these conversations, especially about friendships, is because part of the thing about friendships that we are having is being in new spaces and being new people, that being more evolved people in the same spaces, and then suddenly realizing that you really have, sometimes we outgrow people. And whereas there's nothing wrong with that, it can be damaging, or not damaging, but it can be damaging, and it can certainly be, I don't know the other word I'm looking for yet, when we're trying to stay in spaces when we love the people, when the people don't actually want us to be in that space. There's so many different ways of that being the case. And so that's why, managing friendships can be one of the more challenging parts of evolving.
Yeah, because I don't think that people think so much about friendships as relationships in the way that I talk about them now, right? I think that most of the time we just think, oh, it's a friend, and you don't really think about how vulnerable or truly honest and open you can be with that person until you've been honest or vulnerable in a way that brings dissension, right? Or in a way that makes someone uncomfortable, or in a way that jealousy begins to rear its ugly head. And that has probably been the most challenging for me in the new space, because I'm in a couple of new spaces, right? So when I think about the new space of being a single woman, when I think about the new space of being a mother to adult children, when I think about being in a new space of being able to manage my own time, my own energy, being in a new space where I don't have to take care of anybody, right? It is so different to create friendships in this space than it was when I was in a space where we were all just married, right? Or coupled, or we were all raising children, or we were all providing for family, or we were all taking care. The level of responsibility that I've chosen for myself is very different than what society says I should have. And that has impacted friendships.
That's really interesting. It's funny because on maybe this different end of the same stick, I am a 31-year-old single woman, never been married, never had kids, and a lot of people, it seems like, have either done one or the other, especially had kids. And so for someone like myself who has a lot of freedom as a being, a lot of freedom that I have chosen for myself, and even when I was in abusive situations, I chose those too in a certain way. You know, no one chooses to be abused. However, I did choose the manner in which I entered into that particular relationship, which was totally different, which maybe another day. But navigating friendships in that space where it feels like I am losing friendships in the same way because I'm just choosing my path. And it seems like that upsets people when I choose myself so strongly, because they're like, well, don't you see that I love you? And I'm like, I can see where you think you are. I can see that you're doing the best that you know how. But the programming that you have in your computer is much different than mine. And I am choosing to upgrade my software pretty consistently. And every time I offer you an upgrade, you look at me like I'm crazy, or you'll do it for like 3 weeks and then it's right back to the same thing. So, because that's a whole other story, but I see what you mean, and that now that there's different needs and responsibilities, and choosing different responsibilities creates, it's for some reason creating a rift. On the other hand, though, I believe that it's not necessarily a rift, as it is all things have a season, and it's just time that we have to know when the season is over and to let that pass, because the longer we hold on to it is actually when it starts to feel like dissension.
Right.
Because when we're not moving in alignment with what we actually desire in our vortex, then everything apart from that will feel like resistance.
I think that's the thing that happens when it comes to setting boundaries in relationships, right? So in your friendships, when boundaries show up and you're taking the opportunity to set the boundaries for yourself, people feel like those boundaries are set for the purpose of punishing them. And the boundaries really are not about them, it's about you as a person. So a boundary that says, when the energy is such that it feels like someone is competing with me, or when it feels such that someone is attacking me by trying to belittle me, undermine what I'm doing, little pokes, right? Then little I decide that I can move on and not be in that space any longer. So if that's a boundary for me, and I express that it's not a space that I like to be in, it's not because I think that's a bad person.
Right.
It's because if I've stated that doesn't feel great and it continues, then I get to decide what I do and don't do. And that's really difficult for people because they take it as you are punishing me for just being who I am. And I'm not. I am just saying you can be who you are with other people.
Not with me.
I accept that that's who you are. I accept that that's what you want to do. I accept that that's how you want to speak to people. I accept that you want to create an environment where you are seen as the head of whatever this is we're doing. That's okay, because all I'm trying to do is be a friend. And if you're doing that in a way makes me feel less than or poked at, then I can remove myself.
It's something, or just no, I'm just not having fun. Like I'm more consistently irritated and drained than I am excited and ready to do the next thing. And for me, as a person who's a generator with my human design, like, and that's somebody that moves from the sacral, which is literally like, it's called a generator because that is where all of our creativity and all of our willpower generates from. If I can't do that, if I feel drained around you, I literally physically feel that. And I need to put that energy in other spaces. I deserve to put that energy in other spaces.
You deserve to put that energy into you. Into
myself, exactly. And also you deserve to be with someone who is excited to be with you. And if that's not me, then why, if it's so obvious that I'm not happy when I'm with you, why do you want me to be with you?
As a friend.
As a friend,
yes.
as a person.
Yes.
Like, if we aren't having fun,
right.
if it always feels like kind of things are off, we're always having a conversation about what's going on, what's going left,
So I see it kind of this way. If I'm highly anxious, which means that maybe I'm having heart palpitations, or maybe I get nervous and sweaty, or I can't get my words together and I can't talk to you. Maybe I feel weak in the knees and not in the ooh, I love you kind of way, but I want to get away kind of way.
Right.
If my stomach is always upset, if in my heart I feel like, God, I really don't want to see this person right now, then that's not a space that I should have to subject myself to. Right. Whether it is a mother, a father, a brother, a cousin, a friend from 30 years, a coworker, a neighbor from across the street. I will change where I go get my oil changed.
Yeah,
if the person who I run into there is constantly giving me heartache. So that's kind of, I see friendships as being a space where I can be my most vulnerable self, a space where I can be honest and truthful, a space where I can also be loved and I could be reprimanded.
And yes, that's big, because I want my friends to be able to tell me about myself. And also the other way around, because I want to be able to say to you when I'm feeling that something is off as well. And that we can both say, okay, well, that doesn't feel good, because it's not going to feel great every time. But I appreciate that we can have this conversation. And the thing about it is there are so many people on this earth that there is no reason why any one of any of us should be dealing with any person who brings us dis-ease. We should be with people that bring us joy at all times, and we have a lot more choice over that.
Say that again.
We have a lot more choice over that, power over that, than we allow ourselves to realize, because as a society, we are drilled into, because we've been put in so many institutions where you do have to just deal with people. Mm-hmm. It's been drilled into our head that you have to deal along, get along, and be with that. But the truth is, that is the institution. That's not life.
Right.
And you can leave an institution of marriage, of friendship, of
work.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You can
make choices that put you in a different position, for sure. And
little by little,
for sure. And it's about knowing that you're even in that space and having some self-awareness, because I feel like oftentimes people are not even aware that they're in these toxic friendships, let alone relationships. And those toxic friendships are the things that you bring into relationships. Yeah. And so you have to, even into romantic relationships.
Well, they're the ones that we run to when we're not in our romantic relationships. Right. So they're even more vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest, I just had I found out that one of my ex-toxic friendships passed away today. Mm. And it's so weird to want to be sad, but the last thing I remember you saying to me was so hateful. I can't even mourn you. Yeah. My second friend that's happened with.
That's unfortunate.
We parted on bad terms, and now they're gone.
Wow. You know? Yeah.
And it's like, I didn't want to do that.
Yeah. I feel that.
You know? And now it's, and the reason that I can still be okay is because the reason I even left those people is because I was working on being okay by myself. Mm-hmm.
That's huge. I don't know that a lot of people can be okay by themselves. Their abandonment comes at different levels, right? Mm-hmm. So when we say someone has abandonment issues, that comes at various levels. Mm-hmm. So you can have someone who hangs on to a relationship at a level where they just will not let go. So they're constantly calling, and they are truly hurt and sad and depressed and so forth. You can also have someone who has abandonment issues at a lower level, where maybe they feel a bit of anxiety. It's just a teeny bit, knowing they have to be alone for the day or for the afternoon. And so getting to that place where it's okay not to have someone always in your space, or not to feel like because someone chose to do something different, it means they're rejecting you, is vital to being able to develop self-love, so that you can give yourself self-care, so that you can then be able to truly pour out to other people when they have need of you.
And also, abandonment issues can show up in hyper-independence and hyper-vigilance. Because I definitely have been in situations where I will detach very quickly because I'm like, nope. And two people, I think the side of constantly calling and the side of attachment, when two people like that come together that have not yet learned, I think that's where the toxicity. I think that's where the toxicity can happen when it's not balanced.
Right. So they haven't learned the balance.
They haven't learned the balance yet.
I agree with that. That would be something really great to talk about the next time we get together. Sort of attachment and toxicity. Attachment styles, for sure. And toxicity, and how that manifests itself in friendships and in romantic relationships, because the way that you show up in friendships, the platonic, is exactly how you're going to end up showing up in the romantic relationship.
How you show up for yourself is how you're going to show up for other people.
Oh.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay, we're gonna dig into that.
That's all I'm saying.
Because I got caveats for that too. But oh my gosh, that's good. Wow. All right now.
Well, okay. Well, thanks for coming to the couch.